Hello, and a warm welcome to This Woman's Work, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing women, the fantastic jobs they do, and the paths that have led them to where they are today. I'm here today with Helen. Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Could you, I don't know why, whenever I do that, I always laugh as soon as I say that, and then the person always laughs as if like your name's a funny thing. Anyway, hi Helen. Could you tell the lovely listener what it is you do for a living?
Yeah, I'm an architect, fully qualified, REBA registered, ARB approved architect.
Running your own...
Running my own business,
Is it a practice, business? What's the term for an architect?
A practice, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it feels, it's quite hard for us all come into to be an architect, isn't it? So
it takes a long time.
Takes a long time. Okay, right, before we go down that route then, we're going to go back and talk about little Helen. So at school, college, what were you like, what were you into?
I was always a bit of a tomboy. I used to build bird boxes and take my bike to bits and put it back together again and stuff like that when I was a kid. I'd convert the vegetable garden into like a booby trap sort of crystal maze
So making and constructing things.
Yeah, always. My mum's quite artistic too, so always something arty going on.
Wow.
And she used to hoard stuff, so there'd always be things to make stuff out of, and it's great creative environment to be in. At school, I like languages, I like science, definitely liked all the sort of arty subjects as well.
Are you good at maths?
Not really.
Everyone I don't know thinks I know. Well, why do we think that though?
Well, so there's two different routes with architecture. There's the design.
Okay.
MA or BA or BSc.
Right.
So some universities do the more maths orientated, less artistic side.
Okay. Good to know, so I can do that research for this role. Okay.
Yeah, they don't necessarily make it clear, and they don't necessarily make it very clear that you have to do 7 years to be fully qualified.
Yeah, no, I did know that.
A lot of people left after the first year because they realised how long they'd be before they qualified. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
because it's a lot of debt to get into as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I mean, especially nowadays, God, you've got to really want to do that because it's never been more expensive, has it?
Yeah.
Okay, so at school, love languages, sciences.
Yep, and then
did well. Did
good.
Oh, we don't talk grade. No, we definitely don't with A-levels, although I bet yours would be really impressive. No, we never took grades on this woman's work.
Yeah, did all right.
Enjoyed school.
Yeah.
Went to college.
Yeah, went to college, did graphics, photography, biology and physics.
Oh, wow. What on earth were you thinking that would end up with?
Well, I couldn't go to the same sixth form that everybody normally went to because they didn't have that mix of science and art on the curriculum, or that fitted in the timetable. So I came to Stanford College instead. Really enjoyed it.
So you basically picked the subjects that you really were into.
I think you've got to, haven't you? Because it just makes it so much easier if you do what you enjoy, and then if you don't enjoy it, you're going down the wrong career path anyway, aren't you?
But it happens a lot. I've interviewed a number of women that have said they started off doing certain A-levels and then switched to do different ones. So,
but I definitely think you've just got to do what you enjoy, and it makes it so much easier. It's the same with your job, isn't it? If you're doing something you enjoy, then
it's a lot easier.
It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. Okay, so finish uni with grades that we're not going to discuss, but we're going to say good grades because it's you, so you'll have good grades. And then, did you know then what you wanted to do after that?
With college?
No, with uni. So we're now at the point of you've done your A-levels.
Yeah.
When did you figure out you were going to go and do this?
My dad suggested going to do some work experience at an architect's office in Melton. And it's some people that he played tennis with and stuff, and sort of knew. And so I did a week's work experience, really enjoyed it. And then went back again over the summer holidays to do like another 2 or 3 weeks there.
Oh, wow.
And then went there for my first year out and then my second year out. So, yeah.
So
just
that
really
was
enjoyed
it. Him suggesting that you've gone, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. I guess it's sort of combining all of your, like it's design, but it's slightly construction-y. It's
and I think the practice that I worked for, because they were quite a small company then, they kind of did everything. So you got to go out on surveys, and you got to meet clients, and you got to do the drawing work, and do the site visits. You just it was all in there, and I just liked how varied it was. It was creative but really varied. Every day was sort of different, and it's good fun.
So where did you go to uni?
De Montfort in Leicester.
Okay, yeah.
Looked at a few different ones, but just liked
that
the
course.
atmosphere there.
So the specific course that you did then was?
So it's a BA Honours degree in architecture, and then you do a year out, which is called your Part 2.
So you've done, did you say you do 3 years first?
Yeah, so you do a 3-year degree.
Yeah.
A year out, which is your part. So that's
so
your
all
part
like
1.
your mates are already finishing at the 3 your point. So you kind of almost feel a little bit similar. You're kind of going and working like them for a year.
Yeah. And then so that's your part. So your degree is your Part 1. A year working in practice is your Part 2.
Yeah.
You have to fill in a kind of diary of get it all signed off by your supervisors of what you've been doing, and so it's just proper workplace sort of diary situation. And then
do they kind of grade you, your work placement?
No,
what if you were like really rubbish or like annoying or something, and they went, she's terrible?
It's just kind of confirming what you've been doing.
Okay.
Really. But they do like to see that you've done quite a lot of variety of stuff. You don't just kind of get stuck doing window details for a year or something like that.
And was it hard to find your placement place?
I think no, because I'd already been there.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
But I know people that do go into sort of big practices, and you do get stuck just kind of doing, window details or whatever for a year. Because if you've got a huge project that's got a few hundred windows, that sort of thing takes quite a long time, and it's hard to sort of hand it over to someone else. So you can get a bit stuck in a rut in a big practice like that. But also then you get to experience with the other stuff too. So, sorry, going off on a tangent. So then you do your year working. That's your Part 2, and then you go back to do a graduate diploma in architecture, which is your Part 3.
How is that different? Because you've already, surely in 3 years you've learnt a lot.
So the first year was quite mixed, and it was in with the building surveyors and the project managers as well. Okay. So there was a fair bit of that, and you're always, with the sort of creative stuff, you're always kind of basically having to design projects, stand up, do crits, talk people, group the people through design right from the kind of word go.
Okay. And then so 2 years back at uni, and then another working year, and that's the end of your Part 3, and that's when you can be registered. Okay, and then where did you go from there then?
So then I started working for a company called Rudder Wilkinson in Peterborough.
Okay.
They had an office in London and an office in Peterborough, but they weren't a huge company, but they had quite big projects, and they had different teams. So they had a residential team, an air team, a rail team, and a workplace team. So it's all quite nice.
They offered the variety, that you were seeking,
and bigger projects, which was sort of quite interesting because I'd done some quite big ones before, but it was nice to see more range. So how long were you there for? I was there for... I'm trying to work it out.
I know, and it's slightly depressing at the same time, isn't it?
It's about 3 or 4 years.
Okay, you did a good stint there then.
And I was quite into sustainability all the way through my degree, and I became their head of sustainability.
Wow. How old are you at this point then?
I'm rubbish at dates.
I know, I'm trying to figure this out. So 27, 8? Are you 28? Late 20s?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 27?
27. We'll just say 27. Wow.
And then, so I was sort of I was in charge of all the ISO 9001 environmental certification for the office, as the health and safety side and the environmental side.
Yeah.
So I was sort of in charge of that, but also basically pretty much all of the projects that had a greener aspect to them. They were taken over by Capita.
Oh yeah.
A big company, and they had 14 different offices over the country that were just architecture. So they did it with a complete multidisciplinary company, but then they kind of set up, because they were Capita Simons architects, and then they were sort of trying to do Capita Ruddell Wilkinson architecture as well. But then they merged it all together, made Capita Architecture.
Yeah.
And I became their joint head of sustainability with a guy from Wales.
Bloody hell. Again, you're still in your late 20s at this point.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people there, though, isn't there? You're talking about that's now suddenly a massive operation.
Because I think there were about 100 just in Ruddell Wilkinson.
Wow.
And then this was sort of 14 different offices. So going around. So then I'm sort of literally travelling around the different offices, kind of advising Ruddell Wilkinson, where they could sort of see that I had an ambition for doing something like that. And and it was, they used to send me on lots of courses, and so it did progress me quite kind of quickly, because going on sort of whole day courses and things for it.
So
all
almost
the time
you become like a bit of an expert really in that area.
Yeah,
but that's a great thing. But then for people considering this kind of thing,
great to have the opportunity. Really great, and it's just something that I've always been really interested in as well. So it's great to have that opportunity to then sort of develop it even more, and sort of carried it through
everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're now late 20s, travelling all over the UK. Just bossing it quite clearly, but in a very calm, relaxed way. And then what happened? I'm guessing you got married, did you, at some point around here, or?
So then got married, had my first son.
Yeah.
Thought I'll take some time out.
Yeah.
Started doing a bit of my own work while I was on maternity leave, just sort of for friends to start with. I don't know, I guess it makes you sort of reevaluate everything, doesn't it? And, I realised that I wasn't going to be able to sort of travel about as much as I had been. But, it's not, I don't mean that as a bad thing.
No,
it's just,
you wouldn't change it,
reevaluate and...
But like you say, you've just got to get your head around it all, haven't you, and figure out
and
where you go from there.
Yeah. Set up Raw, did some smaller projects and just kind of grew it.
So, I mean, that is the perfect time to do it as well, because you're off on mat leave anyway, you've got that kind of time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, looking after another life is slightly complicated, but you know what I mean? It does at least give you a bit of time to kind of step back a bit, doesn't it, and think...
I went back then, to work for a different company, Jefferson Sheard, who were... They had a London office, but they also had a Stamford office.
Okay, so much more local for you.
Yeah, but I was in the London office 4 days a week.
Oh. So this was when you'd got a little one as well?
Yeah.
Oh, was that quite nice though? I know we're not allowed to say this, but I'm looking at it thinking, I'd have quite liked that.
Yeah, and being able to work in Stamford on the Friday, or, if anything happened, I could be in the Stamford office if I needed to.
Yeah.
But they had a really small team down there, and they needed someone. They had a lot of junior staff.
Okay.
7 quite junior staff, but the directors that had been down there, one had left and one had was ill and various things. So they just kind of needed someone to give them a bit of direction, because they were moving work from the Peterborough office down to the London office in a really expensive office. And you sort of think...
Nice though, it was nice.
But yeah, it's lovely.
Very nice office.
But
so hang on a minute, so...
It wasn't a very cost-effective way for them to...
So you've had a kid.
Yeah.
You suddenly decide to actually change jobs. I mean, I get that's quite common. So you've set up your own thing, which you're kind of doing on the side. You then completely change businesses, knowing full well you're going to take on a lot of responsibility and stuff in that new
I think
role.
this felt like less responsibility than I had, in a way. I mean, it was
different type of...
It's managing an office, but I was going to be at that office all the time, sort of thing, or in the Stamford office, still kind of working with them. So it wasn't as much travelling around as I had been doing. Still travelling to London and back, but again, they were very good. Sort of negotiated that I would get like the 5 o'clock train home, so I was home by 6:30 every day.
I know you have a little life in you yet. I know you have a lot of strength left. I know you have a little life in you yet.
So you're doing 4 days, you're in London.
Yeah.
You're doing your own stuff on the side.
Yeah.
Then when did that change, or...?
Got pregnant again.
Okay, yeah, happens.
Thought this is going to be difficult.
Yeah. So is there not much time gap between the two then?
2 years.
Yeah. So it's
Or just under, so yeah. But I think everything had sort of taken off so much more then. My ex-husband had started... He wasn't my ex-husband then. He started working business as well because it had grown that much.
So you were still doing that on the side and then doing your full-time job?
Yeah.
Wow.
But he was,
and being a mum. I know, and then you say he came on board, but we're talking about you. But I mean, that is a lot.
Yeah.
You like being busy then?
Yeah. But yeah, you sort of only fill the time that you've got available, don't you? So weren't doing that many projects for me, but so then maternity leave again. Thought, right, this is what I'm going to do now. So
bit the bullet
more,
and
got more jobs.
And what was that like working for yourself then, for want of a better phrase, running your own business rather than working for someone else? Because
I've always hated the financial side of it, but again, I like the variety. I think I've always, just in the stuff that I did at school, just the variation of subjects that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I think it all sort of helped really. I like
you
doing
pick
it all.
And choose.
I like doing the graphics of reports. I like doing the technical side. I like meeting the people.
Yeah.
All of that, and it's so. I like travelling about. I like doing the surveys. I don't mind. I'm quite outdoorsy, so I don't mind being out in the cold doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, you've got some good cold weather gear then.
Yeah. Heated body warmer.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, it's really nice to have that mix of stuff. And
So you were really busy then, and has that continued, or have you know we're in a cost of living crisis?
I think it's starting to. I think particularly the mortgage rates going up so much has more impact on me really, because most of what I do is residential.
Yeah.
So if people can't, people tend to not want to borrow when the mortgage rates are high. So if they're borrowing to do a project, then it quietens down a bit.
Given the fact that you are very close to the industry, so what's your take then on mortgages and all of that kind of thing? For anyone listening, do you think that's ever going to change, or are we now living with these rates? Because I think a lot of people, I said, have kind of stopped doing stuff because they're then thinking, oh no, I'm going to wait for the mortgage rates to come down, or...
I think they'll settle. I'm not an expert,
nowhere near what they were.
No, and I mean most of the kind of booms and crashes in construction tend to work on about a 7-year cycle usually, and that tends to go with the property boom, house prices, dips and troughs as well.
Yeah.
So I think they'll
would
come
now
down
be classed as a trough then, or would it? Is it? Because builders still seem to be really busy, don't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of big companies that have gone under.
Oh.
A lot of big companies in the last 6 months or so. But whether that's kind of cost of borrowing, whether it's big projects being cancelled.
Yeah, so what would they be doing
then?
then, typically, those big companies then?
There's seems to be a lot of kind of civils companies and things like that. I don't know whether it's all, part of the HS2
Well, yeah.
things, stuff like that, and there's a knock-on effect down the line.
Yeah.
But I think those companies that grew rapidly where they were busy with all of the
And
property
it's really
changes,
grown.
that it's, and that if you
You're just going to
capitalise on it and
combust.
grow the company, then and you've got huge overheads. When it does calm down a bit, you notice it a whole lot quicker.
Yeah,
and a lot
yeah.
more, so.
But I guess that's kind of thing's interesting, because there will be people hopefully listening to this that have maybe thought about doing something or moving or whatever but do you know what I mean? Don't quite know.
Yeah, I
if
do
it's
get
the
that
right-
a lot, where people are sort of like, oh, the house isn't right for us, we don't know if we should sell. And actually, it's quite expensive to sell.
It really is.
And to just have a fresh pair of eyes come and look at it and see what is possible within what you've got for a similar kind of money, it can be more cost effective to
do
alter
that.
than to-
Yeah. So you very much go in with their budget that they've given you and kind of say, this is what you could do, basically.
Yeah.
And what about
That's
new
fine.
houses? Do people, if they're considering buying a new house, do people get you to go in, and at what point in the chain do people get you in then?
Normally, there are options for what people want to do. Nearly always,
Yeah.
it might not necessarily be what they originally thought of doing.
Yeah.
But I can definitely make it work for them. Within their budget. But I did go and look at a house the other day, last week actually, where there's a couple really liked it, really interested in buying it. Could I go and look and just see if they could do what they wanted to do? And it's probably the first one where I've had to say, I just don't think it's worth the money for what they want to do. And I feel
Gosh,
bad
that is
because I
such
did put them off.
helpful advice, though. What skills or what inherent skill set do you think you've got that make you good and okay at it? We've already talked about the fact you're very calm. Very calm, take everything in your stride. Very creative. Anything else that you think?
Organisation always helps.
Yes. Good at time
I
planning.
wouldn't say I'm the most organised person in the world.
I bet you
though,
are.
but it's difficult when it's creative though, because even crits at uni literally working till the last minute because you've got till the last minute.
Yeah.
And you just want to put everything into it. And so yeah, I am organised to a point.
Yeah.
I think people skills and just being able to communicate, and I guess a bit of empathy really, that understanding of what people want. When I meet clients for the first time, I really probably only meet them once or twice before I design their forever home.
Oh wow, yeah. You've got to
And it's
getting a feel for you. Are you a good reader of people then? You've got to be good at that, surely.
I think I am,
Yeah.
And yeah, just getting that kind of, because quite often as well, when you first meet a client, they're not in their dream surroundings, because that's what you're trying to create for them, and to try and get a grasp of what they like, if all their stuff's still in boxes, or if they're in the house that they're in before they're moving to the other house, or it's quite. I do a bit of work on sort of Pinterest and things like that to try and get a feel for what they want to create if it's not what they're in at the moment. But
you've got to be able to really read people quickly then, haven't you?
Yeah. And I think...
Because also they're looking to you for inspirations for almost like stuff probably they don't know about themselves. They want this to be their... Like we all do, don't we? This sort of representation of... their future self, in want of a better phrase, don't they?
And I think some architects are quite, this is how I do things, and if you want me to do it, it's going to look like this.
Oh, right.
I'm not that sort of person. I've obviously I've got a style that I prefer for myself, which was nice to build my own house to actually be able to do that for myself. But I think... being able to adapt to what other people want is quite important, and I think
and
not
surely
patronising people,
yeah,
or making people feel relaxed enough to ask stupid questions, because there's always going to be questions that people want to ask but daren't, or they think they'll feel stupid if they ask it. But I mean, there's so many components to architecture.
Yeah.
That.
What about like navigating other people's bloody marriages? Let's be honest about it. Because often you're dealing with couples, aren't you?
Yeah.
It could even be friends or whatever it is, and you've got to navigate between two people.
And very often, one will be the person who kind of briefs
Takes
you.
the lead, okay.
But the other person will be the person that makes the decisions ultimately. And it's funny, because when I normally kind of, if people don't really know what they want, but they know that their place isn't right, I normally try and do kind of 3 options. One is what they sort of had in mind.
Yeah.
One is probably the most sort of straightforward to achieve what they want.
Yeah.
Which those 2 might not be the same and very often aren't.
Yeah.
And then I'll usually try and chuck in a curveball that is just things that they hadn't even really thought they needed, or that sounds like I'm completely changing the brief.
No, and then do you end up with like a mashup then in the end?
Yeah, normally take kind of components of all of them, but I always think I should probably put like my marriage guidance counsellor details back, because quite often they like the curveball, but it will take quite a lot of conversation between themselves to come around to that idea, or to... It's difficult, because what we were saying about how some people kind of ask me before they've even bought a house whether they can make it what they want it to be, but then other people will have bought a house and they'll have lived in it for
a couple of years,
2-3 years before they ask me to do anything, at which point they have got quite a kind of clear mindset. They're using the house how it is, and they've got a kind of, they've got set in a way that makes them think that's how they need to alter it, and quite often that fresh pair of eyes can completely change that.
Okay, so what's next then? Where do you go from it? And obviously we're sitting in your house that you're doing up.
Yep.
Which is obviously a project in itself.
It is, and just having time to do it is the biggest challenge, really.
Yeah.
Logistically, though, just moving the office out so that there's kind of space to work, really. I'd quite like to employ a graduate at some point soon. I think it's nice to have... I've sort of had work experience, kids, quite a lot. And I find that quite rewarding as well. And I try and give them the sort of broadest experience that I can. But yeah, I'm doing a bit more commercial stuff. I've got a surgery extension that I'm doing. I've got quite a few new builds at the moment as well. So the project that I'm project managing, it's been suggested that should go in for an LOBC award, so that'd be nice.
So it's more about, it's not necessarily about really expanding your practice, it's more about just sort of picking the projects that you really...
I think I would like to grow it if you can get a graduate on board, then it frees me up to do
getting the right people has got to be the hardest thing there.
It is.
My 2 final questions before we can go and let your
chop saw out.
Your other half go and do what does he want to do? Some like
he's got a big chop saw. He wants to chop all the wood up.
He wants to just be really manly and chop a load of wood, doesn't he?
Yeah,
really noisily. So my 2 final questions are always: is there any advice you would give your younger self, so little Helen, back then, knowing what you know now? Is there any advice you would give your younger self?
Follow your heart in everything.
Because you did, didn't you? I guess that's the thing.
Yeah. I think we were saying before, you all the way through school and college and university, you have to do what you enjoy. Don't pick subjects because you score well in them, or because someone else thinks you should have that because it's a good backup. Or you've got to do what you enjoy, because it will always make it easier to do your exams and to...
But surely just
Put the effort
naturally
in.
it's going to lead you down. Maybe not the ultimate right path, but
Yeah, it's going to
On the
take
right-
you where
yeah.
you want to go. If it's stuff that you enjoy,
yeah.
it will take you the
You're
right
not-
way, even if you don't know what the right way is.
Yeah. That's great advice. Okay, and the final question is a bit of life advice to throw out there to the world. Now, it could be to other women out there, it could be to men and women. Any kind of mantras or life advice you have?
I think you just be strong and believe in yourself. I think a lot of times working in a very male environment,
Yeah, we didn't
I've
even
been-
touch on that.
I've been made to feel like I'm the one that doesn't really know what I'm talking about, and particularly on that one job.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just be confident in yourself and your own ability.
Do you even know what the ratio of men to women are in architecture? It feels very male to me, having as a
Yeah.
client.
When I
Women are in the
first-
offices, but they're generally doing admin roles, aren't
the
they?
first practice that I started my work experience in, all the architects were men and were all on the first floor, and there were 2 secretaries that worked downstairs. So that was my introduction to to the work, because I was quite a tomboy anyway. I sort of didn't really mind.
Yeah.
When I went to uni, it was a bigger mix than I thought there was going to
Okay.
be, until the point where they told everyone it was going to be 7 years. And I think a lot of girls, whether it was just that they thought, hang on a minute, I'm still going to be at
Almost like biological clocky ticking, do you think?
Yeah, and that really shocked me, actually, because I guess I hadn't
Yeah.
really even thought about that whole part of my
yeah.
life. But I think some people really had a kind of, want to have kids by the time I'm 23, 24,
Yeah.
pattern
Or
in their
even,
head.
like
and
you
sort of
say-
think, well, I'm still only half qualified then.
Yeah, so how old are you when you qualify? So assuming you go at 18 and you haven't had a gum year, so you go 18, so you're 25
Yeah.
by the time you qualify, and then you've got to do some actual work. So really...
26, really, because
yeah.
you've got the final year working.
Oh, yes, yeah. So actually, you're not going to be having kids,
Because
really,
they're
until
proper
you're in your
training.
early 30s, are you, as an architect, as
Yeah.
a woman?
And because they're still training years, effectively,
Yeah.
you're not paid
can't-
normal salary.
No.
So yeah, it's quite the fallout
realisation of
after
that,
that
yeah.
first year was massive,
Wow, what a shame.
particularly for definitely for women.
For women. And now do you think it is more balanced? Or... Because I guess, do you see many architects now? I mean, I guess, unless you're going to conferences or something, who do you... It's not like you just do you hang out with other architects? I don't know.
Really, actually, no. But, I mean, in the 2 offices that I sort of worked
Yeah.
in previously, there was probably... I don't know, probably still less than 25%,
Yeah.
even in the London
Still
offices.
very male.
Yeah.
I reckon
Yeah.
it still would be. I reckon it still would be.
I think the site side, you notice it more.
Yeah.
I did sneak in at the start of an MVQ in trowel skills just to back up my...
Have some creds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done woodwork sort of joinery evening class as well.
Yeah, so you can...
I mean, I love making stuff anyway, but it's nice to have that bit of knowledge that people maybe don't
Yeah.
expect.
And do you think you're
too.
doing that more as a woman, though, if you're honest?
Yes.
Rather than, like, your male counterparts wouldn't feel they need to do it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Because you feel like on a
it's-
job or something, you're going to have to prove yourself a little bit more than...
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think in that first practice I worked in, it was a lot more kind of a lot more traditional build and a lot more traditional builders.
Yeah.
And I could see it was going to be harder for me to not talk to builders, but harder for me to address it if there was something wrong.
Yeah,
Being
yeah.
a
You
woman.
needed to really know your stuff. On that note, I'm going to say thank you very much, Helen.
These moments
If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some pics and read about how to get started in this industry and or this role, then please go to our website www.thiswomanswork.org. The link is on this podcast page and across our socials. Sincere thanks.